10 mistakes people make when they prospect. I'm going to walk you through the list of 10. Number 10 is going to surprise you. Hey, if you like this video, I want you to click subscribe. I put a new one out every week. And two, go down to the show notes and you're going to see an ebook I want you to download where I go into all 10 of these much more extensively. Number one, using the same process for all your prospects. You have to take your prospects and you have to divide them into segments and develop a different process for each one of those segments. If you think every prospect you have is going to be contacted the exact same way, you're in for a big mistake. Segment into 3 to 4 based on the outcome they're looking for, based on who they are, how frequently you can contact them, et cetera, and then stick with that plan. Number 2, having too many prospects in your pipeline. Here's the whole thing. Don't start what you can't finish. Too many people make this mistake. What they do is they get into trouble. They don't have enough business, so they dump a whole lot of prospects into their pipeline, and they're able to make 1 or 2 contacts, and that's it. You see, the whole thing about prospecting is the art of the follow-up. You have to be able to follow up. That means you're going to have to be able to contact them 8, 9, 10, 12, 14 times, each one with a different message. But what that means is it's actually going to take fewer prospects. It's not a game of the most prospects. It's the best one. I'll get to that in just a bit. Number 3, not following up. You see, what I told you earlier, number 2 plays out here. You have to be able to sit there and say, I'm contacting you this week. I'm contacting you next week. I'm contacting you every week. Or maybe your plan is, I'm contacting you every other day, whatever it might be. But you have to be able to follow up. Here's the whole thing. The vast majority of salespeople give up far too soon. They do. They give up far too soon. Why do they give up too soon? Because they think, well, they haven't responded, so they must not be interested. No, they haven't responded because your message hasn't been of value to them. You see, each message you give them, each message you send, however you send it to them, must have a different value statement, different value question in it. Number 4, not segmenting your prospects based on who they are and their needs. You see, this plays into 1, 2, and 3 here. This is what I'm saying. I've got to be able to segment and zero in on outcomes. Now, here's a key piece I want you to keep in mind. Zero in on the outcomes. Now, what is it? This is the benefit that they receive. Too many times what happens is we're so close to our product that we get focused on our product as a feature. We get focused on it because we know what it can do. But the customer is looking at for this one small piece. Rarely does a prospect buy our product for everything that we offer. They buy it because of the value a particular segment is going to be. See, so what I got to do is I got to segment this apart, and I got to zero in on that. Number 5, relying on email as your primary prospecting tool. Email is a great tool, but don't think for a moment that all you have to do is email. 2 big problems with it. 1, you send an email too many times to somebody and their spam filter, their junk, whatever, it's going to pick it up and boom, you're blocked. You're never getting through. 2, just because you're sending the email doesn't mean they're reading it. Oh, I know you've got a tool that monitors whether or not they open it. I know, but whether or not they open it, they may open it and they go, this sucks. This sucks. You see, what happens when we rely on email is all we do is play repeat. And what I got to do is I got to reach you, the prospect, using the communication method that you prefer, not the one that's easiest for me. The one that you prefer may be text messaging, maybe the telephone, maybe voicemail. It may be any number of other means, but it's not always email. It's number 6. Thinking social media is your answer. You know, there's been this big craze of social selling. Well, let me tell you something. Social selling is neither social nor selling. Boom, I just said it. Here's the whole situation. If I rely on social media, you say, well, gee, I'm on social media. So everybody else. No, they're not. No, they're not on social media. Don't think for a moment. There's a lot of industries, a lot of businesses out there where people are never on social media. I'm going to call out LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great example. I love LinkedIn. I'm B2B. Now, I sell to primarily salespeople. So guess what? I can use LinkedIn. But here's the whole deal. LinkedIn is really comprised of 4 main components of users. 1, salespeople. Yeah, salespeople use it because they think everybody else is on LinkedIn. 2, it's HR. HR use it. Well, you can see the value of HR because they're using it to find people. 3, recruiters. Recruiters use it all the time. Why? Because they're trying to find people who they can call and try to recruit to another company. And 4, it's the unemployed or soon to be unemployed. You see, many times your best decision makers, they're never on LinkedIn. They have a profile, but that doesn't mean they check it. They may be on LinkedIn once a month or once every other month, but not 2, 3, 4 times a day like you do. See, so don't think for a moment that all I have to do is put a bunch of stuff out on social media and the telephone's going to ring. No. Number 7, not allocating the proper commitment of your time. Prospecting cannot be something that you're going to do after you're done with everything else. If it is, you'll never get to it. You will never get to it because everything else will wind up consuming all your time. You see, you have to dedicate committed time. And what does this mean? This might be 90 minutes a day. This might be 3 hours a day. This might be 2 days a week. This might be 3. You have to determine. But when you put it on your calendar, and I strongly suggest you put it on your calendar, you stay committed to it. And here's the other thing. When you have prospecting time, that does not mean you're getting ready to prospect. That means you are prospecting. You see, you are prospecting. Too many times what happens is people will sit there and say, well, I set aside 2 hours a day to prospect. But all they do is get ready to prospect, but they never actually prospect. What I want to do is I want to engage with my prospects. So that means I may have to dedicate another window of time to say preparing to prospect. But let me tell you something. When I run into salespeople who say, gee, I missed my quota last quarter, I'm going to sit there and say, well, how much time did you spend prospecting in the quarter before that? And it's almost a direct correlation between the amount of time prospecting and the deals you have to close. If you want to prospect deals next quarter, you better be prospecting this quarter. Number 8, failing to realize that your prospects don't care about you and your company. You see, we may say that the capabilities presentation is dead. Oh, I don't walk into my customers and give them an 80-page presentation. Yeah, but you know what? You do still sit there and when you're on the phone with them, in an email. You see, in a voicemail, no. See, if they want to find out about you and your company, they can go on the web. See, what I have to do is I have to bring to my prospects information and questions that get them thinking about their business. That's how I can begin to get them to see that I have their interest in mind and it's not about my interest. You must make sure that every message is focused on them, every question on what their needs are. Number 9, not making your messages about your prospect's need. You see, that this is just what I was just talking about. See, in number 8, I was saying you can't let them sit there and say, oh, well, it's all about me. No, it's not about me. I have to make sure that every prospect's message is of something of interest to them. Now, go back to this whole piece where I said to segment. This is what I like about segmenting based on outcomes. See, this way, what I can do is I can take these prospects over here that are in this segment, and when I learn something about this one prospect, I can probably apply it to every other prospect in that segment. See, this is why I love getting very granular with how I prospect, because it allows me to focus in. Now, here's one piece. Don't focus in too quickly after the prospect begins talking to you, because you may focus in to get them to respond, but be prepared to back off, because now you got to let them guide you. Just because this is the reason one prospect bought from you is not necessarily the reason another prospect is. So I'm going to use common language, common questions to engage, to get them on the telephone with me. But 2, I'm not going to necessarily make that as my bold assumption. Number 10, failing to realize the telephone. This is it. Failing to realize the telephone is still a great prospecting tool. It is. Now, let's break this apart here for a second. 3 things I want to share with you right now. If I have one 1-minute phone call with you, I'm going to exchange more information with you than I probably will be able to in 2 or 3 emails. Think about that. The speed is incredible. 2, when I'm talking to you on the phone, I understand your personality and you understand my personality. It's amazing how much more. 3, It is the ability for us to connect in a way to gain that micro commitment faster. Let me explain what I mean by this. One of the key things about following up is to always be able to gain that next step, what I call the micro commitment. I can email you and I can sit there and say, hey, call me or check my calendar out. Let's get time on the calendar. It doesn't mean as much. But when I have you on the telephone and I can sit there and I can say, hey, what's your calendar look like next Tuesday at 10 a.m.? I'm assured of a much more competent response and a higher participation rate in that next step. Because how many times have you gotten a confirmation regarding somebody in an email? Oh yeah, next Tuesday at 10 o'clock. And then they don't show next Tuesday at 10 o'clock. See, the telephone. Now, I still got to confirm this by way of email, but I like the telephone because it allows now. Let's break apart this telephone one more way in terms of voicemail. You see, when I leave you a tight 12 to 16 second whoa. Yeah, 12 to 16 second voicemail. What am I doing? I am allowing you to understand that I'm really respectful of your time. You're understanding me because you're getting a little bit of my personality. And three, it's far more engaging. You see, don't think for a moment that the telephone and voicemail is dead, because here's the other thing about voicemail. Why I'm adamant on 12 to 16 voicemail, 12 to 16 second voicemails. The vast majority of systems now translate that to text. If you leave somebody a 40-second voicemail, can you imagine what that's going to look like in a text message to them? They're going to delete it. They're not going to respond. But if it's a tight, short voicemail, yeah, you see, it's all about doing steps to move you forward to the next step. I've just walked you through the 10 mistakes people make when prospecting. I want you to grab the ebook because I go through it in a lot more detail. And there's a lot more videos out there that I've got where I break all of these pieces down. And it's also in the book, High Profit Prospecting. My name's Mark Hunter, the Sales Center. Great selling.